This week is the 24th anniversary of 9/11, and I wanted to commemorate that day in the best way I know how, which is to talk about it in connection with music history. 9/11 obviously had a huge impact on the course of history, politics, and the everyday lives of Americans. So naturally, the ripple effects of that change were also felt in music. First, there was the list of banned songs. Now, they weren't actually banned, but in the increased sensitivity after the attacks, Clear Channel, the largest owner of radio stations in the United States, sent out a memo discouraging its stations from playing 165 songs that they thought would be considered offensive after the attacks. These included songs that made sense, like Drowning Pool's Bodies, and some that were a bit of a stretch, like Alien Ant Farm's cover of Smooth Criminal, but notably not the Michael Jackson original. Some songs were on the list because they were too happy, like Louis Armstrong's A Wonderful World. Some songs were on the list because they were too political, like System of a Down's Chop Suey and Rage Against the Machine's. Well, actually they said all the Rage Against the Machine songs, every single one should not be played. Speaking of System of a Down, that band was uniquely affected by 9/11 because, one, their album Toxicity had just been released on September 4th. It would hit number one on the Billboard charts while Clear Channel was actively telling their stations not to play the album's single. And two, lead singer Serj Tankian wrote an essay on September 13th discussing how the terrorist attacks were connected to U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East, which resulted in huge backlash against the band, including death threats. And other bands were affected, bands who had either just released albums or were just about to release albums that could be considered insensitive. They had to scramble to make changes at the last minute. The Strokes had to remove a song making fun of New York City cops. Jimmy Eat World had to repress their album Bleed American without the title. Some bands traced their origin to the events of that day, like My Chemical Romance, whose lead singer Gerard Way was inspired to start a band after witnessing the towers fall while he was living in New York.
A big thing that went through my head was, everything's kind of pointless that you're doing right now. I need to do something that actually means something, or my life's gonna mean nothing.
Years later, the band said in a statement, starting MyChem was a direct result of everything we experienced and witnessed during those horrific events. 9/11 changed our lives and affected every aspect of our consciousness. As people struggled with the shock and fear and grief in the aftermath of September 11th, one of the ways people came together was through music. Some old songs brought us comfort. Paul Simon playing The Boxer on Saturday Night Live just a couple weeks later. Some songs yet to be written would help us make sense of our feelings. Bruce Springsteen's 2002 album The Rising. But there was also the music that was released on that day, because September 11th, 2001 was a Tuesday. And back then, new albums were always released on Tuesdays. In some ways, it might seem frivolous to talk about albums that were released on September 11th. It reminds me of one of my favorite comedians, Todd Barry, talking about running into a music nerd friend on the day of 9/11.
I'm walking down the street. It's smoky, it's sad, it's awful. I see a guy I know a little bit coming towards me. He comes within a foot of me, looks up, and he goes, "The new Mercury Rev album is out." Are you sure about that? Because I just watched the news, and I didn't fucking see that.
But I think it's important because these albums capture the cultural moment in ways we don't always think about. And for some of us, they were the soundtrack to how we process that day. In this series running all this week, I'm going to focus on 5 albums that were released on September 11th, 2001, each with their own unique place in the history of popular music. Jay-Z's The Blueprint, Mariah Carey's Glitter, Nickelback's Silver Side Up, The Moldy Peaches' Self-Titled, and Bob Dylan's Love and Theft. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video, and please subscribe so you don't miss an episode.